Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Chapter 14. Leo's Point of View. I woke up to the sound of quiet music playing. Butterflies stirred in my stomach as I opened my eyes and realized I wasn't in my own bed, but in a stranger's. Donovan. He stood with his back to me, looking through drawers for clothes. His hair was still damp from a shower, and water trailed down his neck and back. The memory of last night rushed over me, moments I wasn't sure how to process. Heat rose in my chest, my heart racing. What did I even do last night? And where exactly am I? Donovan bent to pick something off the floor, and I caught myself staring. There was something about him I couldn't quite explain, magnetic, unsettling, and oddly comforting at the same time. He pulled a cigarette from his jeans and lit it. Smoke curled lazily in the air, drifting toward the taped-up window that let in only a sliver of morning light. The dim glow gave the room a moody, cinematic tone. I decided it was time to leave. Gathering my clothes, I dressed as quickly as possible. Donovan didn't glance my way, not even when I nearly tripped pulling on my shoes. His calm detachment made the moment feel surreal, like I'd stepped into another world. When I couldn't find my backpack, I considered asking, but something in me hesitated. Before I could say anything, Donovan turned, a pen in hand. He scribbled on a piece of paper and held it out to me. It was a phone number. "When you need to escape, just give me a call," he said, his voice smooth, sending a chill down my spine. I gave a nervous laugh and slid the note into my pocket. "See you later, Donovan." Downstairs, my backpack was waiting by the couch where we'd sat the night before. But my laptop was gone. Stolen. My stomach sank, but there was no time to dwell. With a heavy sigh, I grabbed my bag and stepped outside. The walk back felt endless. I kicked at rocks, muttering under my breath. My emotions spiraled. Anger, confusion, sadness. Why was everything so complicated? Why couldn't life just be simple? My eyes stung from lack of sleep, my stomach growled from hunger, and my body ached as if I'd run a marathon. And now, on top of everything, I had to figure out how to replace my stolen laptop. All my files, gone. By the time I reached familiar streets, exhaustion weighed on me, but I kept moving. I climbed the steps of Nathan's house, dreading what awaited me. I knocked, but instead of him, his mom opened the door. "Oh, Leo. Finally, we've been so worried," she exclaimed, pulling me into a hug. I froze awkwardly. "What?" "Nathan's been looking for you all night." "I'm just here to get my things," I muttered, slipping past her. I brushed my teeth quickly, gathered my belongings, and ordered an Uber. "Where are you going?" she asked gently, her eyes full of concern. "Home. I need some space." I dragged my luggage a few blocks away, waiting for the ride to arrive. The driver, a young guy named Cash, looked barely old enough to be behind the wheel. Still, I loaded my bags and sat in the front seat. He glanced at me. "You okay?" I coughed into my sleeve. "Yeah." As we drove, he offered to play music. I eventually plugged in my phone and played some songs I didn't even understand, just to fill the silence. We stopped at McDonald's. My hunger had reached its limit. After orange juice, pancakes, a breakfast sandwich, and way too many sides, I finally felt alive again. Then, as if out of nowhere, Cash asked, "Are you gay?" I shot him a look. "Maybe you shouldn't ask that. It's kind of unprofessional." He stammered. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean, it's just, I think you're cute. Please don't be upset." My walls softened a little. I tilted my head, smirking. "Go on." He hesitated, then said quietly, "You're beautiful." I leaned back against the seat, looking out at the passing streets. A small smile tugged at my lips. "Yeah," I said. "I'm gay." "Cool." He waited for me to respond, but I didn't. I wasn't in the mood for one-word conversations. "How dare you waste my time like this," I thought. Then he asked, "Do you have a boyfriend?" "No." His lips curved into a shy smile. "Not gonna lie, that just gave me butterflies. I let out a snort. How old are you? He looked a little wounded by my bluntness, though I hadn't meant it to be rude. There was an innocence about him, like he hadn't dated much at all. Still, who admits something like that to a stranger? 21, he said. Cool, I replied with a smirk. His pale cheeks turned bright red, and I almost laughed at how quickly he blushed. Sorry if I'm making you uncomfortable, he added. Do you say that to people a lot? I teased. He shifted his eyes to the road. Guys think I act weird. Nah, I said, softening. Be yourself. Someone out there will love you exactly as you are. Don't ever try to be something you're not, you'll regret it. At the next red light, he glanced at me. His dark eyes caught mine, deep and striking. Thanks, Leonardo. You don't call me that. Just Leo. Leo, he repeated, smiling. I like that. Are you flirting with me? He chuckled nervously. No, I don't even know how to flirt. I raised a brow. Funny, considering you didn't hesitate to ask me if I was gay. That took more courage than you think, he admitted. You're the first cute guy I've ever driven. I covered my mouth in mock shock. Please tell me you're not doing this job just to meet people. There are easier ways. He laughed. No, I'm not. A song came on the radio, and I couldn't help but sing along, forgetting him for a moment. When it ended, I glanced back at him. There was something different about Cash, something genuine. Have you ever dated anyone? I asked. He hesitated. No. Guys don't usually like me. I'm not tall enough, tan enough, or whatever enough. I studied him openly, making sure he noticed. You're cute. Probably just surrounded yourself with the wrong people. The right person will see you for who you are. He laughed shyly. Maybe. I know friends who'd love someone like you. He looked at me quickly. But not you. I blinked, surprised. Shy boy's not so shy anymore. He shrugged, smiling. Talking to you makes me feel comfortable. That warmed me more than I expected. That actually makes me happy. When he asked for my number, I grinned. Sure, Kish. But only if you promise not to get yourself in trouble. We exchanged numbers at the next stoplight. I realized then I had two numbers tucked away in my pocket, Donovan's and now Cash's. For someone who usually felt overlooked, suddenly I was feeling like the star of my own story. The rest of the ride was filled with light banter. When we finally pulled up to the airport, Cash helped with my luggage. Up close, I realized we were nearly the same height, something I hadn't noticed before. Thanks, Cash, I said sincerely. He smiled. Have a safe trip, Leo. I hesitated, then gave him a quick hug. He stiffened for a moment before relaxing into it. His arms felt warm, steady. For a second, I didn't want to let go. Call me sometime, I told him with a grin before heading toward the terminal. Inside, I felt oddly lighter. Meeting Cash had been unexpected, but maybe exactly what I needed. Leo's point of view. As soon as my ride pulled away, I realized I should have asked her to wait. Now I was standing outside the store with all my luggage, looking like I'd packed for a month just to buy one thing. My friend wouldn't be off work for another hour. What was I supposed to do in the meantime? Just once. I headed inside and spotted a kind-looking associate near the entrance. Hi, I said, putting on my best smile. Could you help me with something? Of course. What do you need? Would you mind watching my bags while I grab something quickly? I promise I won't be long. Sure, just set them right here, she said, motioning behind the podium. You are a lifesaver, thank you. You're welcome. Also, do you know where I can find Gerald? I asked, dragging my suitcase behind her stand. He should be in the back. Want me to call him? Oh wow, yes please, thank you. She lifted her walkie-talkie and with playful drama called, Gerald to the front, please. A minute later, Gerald appeared, a little out of breath but smiling. He was a big guy with a soft presence, the sweetest Italian I'd ever met. Hi, Gerald. I waved. Leo. He blinked. I'm just surprised to see you. What's up? Remember that deal you mentioned? I really need a laptop. And maybe guidance, because my tech knowledge ends at the phone. He laughed. I can help with the deal, but I'm not a laptop expert. We hired someone new who really knows his stuff. I'll call him, then I'll meet you to handle the discount. Deal. He radioed again. Seth, can you help a guest in computers? I followed the signs and found Seth assisting a large family. The department was packed. Apparently today was replace your laptop day. Hey, I said softly. Hey, give me one he answered, scanning the floor. I'll grab someone else to help you. When he returned, my chest tightened. He wasn't alone. It was Derek. The air thinned. We just stared, no words, barely a breath. Heat surged through me. I couldn't tell if it was anger, panic, or both. For a second, I wished I could blink out of existence. Derek, could you help Leo? Seth said gently. He needs a laptop. Gerald sent him. Derek stepped aside to let the family pass, then joined me at the display table. He cleared his throat. I braced myself. What happened to your laptop? He asked quietly. He knew how much it mattered to me. My schoolwork, my files, everything. It was stolen, I said, forcing a light tone I didn't feel. Do you want the same kind? You know this isn't an Apple store. I'm on a budget, I admitted. Something good, not too expensive. Gerald's helping with a discount. I can find something, he said and walked off. I refused to watch him go, not again, but he was back quickly with a box. You'll like this one. I'll trust you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Is that all? He asked, professional and careful. Yeah. All right. I'll ring you up. Follow me. We moved a few feet to a quieter register. The stillness made my heartbeat feel louder. He looked at the screen longer than necessary, like he was buying time. My card, I said, holding it up. He scanned the box and tapped through the prompts. He didn't meet my eyes. The moment he finally did, mine were already glassy. I took the bag and turned away. There was so much I wanted to say. I told myself I was getting used to the pain, that maybe what we had become a memory I could file away. But seeing him again told the truth, I wasn't okay. I retrieved my luggage from the kind associate, thanked her, and stepped outside for air. My hands shook so badly I set everything down on the sidewalk. I'd cried so many tears over this boy, holding them back felt impossible. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Hey, it's Gerald. I got your number from my wife. Derek just broke down in front of everyone and I don't know what to do. My stomach lurched. My feet moved before my brain caught up. I rushed back inside. A small crowd had formed near the end of the aisle. Derek was on his knees, eyes squeezed shut, crying openly. Whatever defenses I had left shattered. I stepped forward, tears blurring my vision. Derek had always struggled to show emotion. Just because I cried easily didn't mean I felt more. Sometimes the quiet ones were holding back a storm. He'd lived near that edge for a long time. He opened his eyes and saw me. He tried to stand, maybe to run, but I reached him first, wrapping my arms around his shoulders as he knelt. He clutched my shirt, the words spilling out of him like water from a broken dam. I smoothed a hand through his hair and held him close. I'm so sorry, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. And the guarded knight who always hid behind his armor finally took off the helmet, revealing the face of someone brave enough to feel. Chapter 15. Leo's point of view. My lips trembled as I looked at Derek. He was leaning against the wall of the dark storage closet, his face partly hidden in shadow, quiet sobs shaking through his body. I stood frozen, unsure of what to do. I had already wiped my own eyes too many times, but tears kept coming anyway. So many thoughts crowded my head. Should I give him space to calm down, or should I reach out and comfort him? My heart said one thing, my mind another. Still, seeing him hug himself and shrink into the corner tore at me. I couldn't take another second. Slowly, I reached forward and placed my hand gently on his back. He turned, pressing against the wall, his expression filled with pain. His blue eyes caught the light, clear and raw with emotion. You're the only one I've ever loved, Derek said, choking on the words. He took uneven breaths between each sentence. For years, I thought you were the one. I included you in every choice, big or small. My future with you was certain. And then I cheated, I whispered, ashamed. That's not what I mean, he said, shaking his head, tears spilling despite his effort to hold them back. This isn't your fault, it's mine. His words stunned me. Derek had never admitted something like this. Usually, when we fought, he stayed silent or implied the blame was on me. Our relationship is both of our responsibility, I told him firmly. We both made it toxic. It wasn't just me, it was us. Tears streamed down his face, and he couldn't answer. I wasn't used to seeing him like this. Derek was always either quiet or angry, never this broken. You're perfect, he said through sobs. I'm not, I replied quickly. You have great friends, a family who loves you. I have nothing. That's not true, I said, my own tears threatening. You have a sister who adores you and looks up to you. You have Nicole, Jesse, Priscilla, and whether you admit it or not, you still have your dad. No, he shook his head. I don't. Yes, you do, I insisted, crouching down so our eyes met. Why do you fight so hard to believe you're alone? That's the problem, Derek. You convince yourself of these dark things even when there's proof you're wrong. The truth is, you are loved. He went still, then said quietly, Nicole told you it was an accident, didn't she? That's what everyone thinks, because that's what I told them. I froze, my hand awkwardly finding his knee. My heart twisted. Part of me wanted to run, the other wanted to scream. It's okay, I whispered. You're here now. That's what matters. I wanted it to stop, he said, slipping into that flat, monotone voice that scared me most. The pain, the thoughts, all of it. My chest tightened, and I buried my face in my hands. My worst fear, what Nicole had called an accident, wasn't an accident at all. Why, Derek? My voice cracked. Why would you want to leave? I just couldn't take it anymore, he whispered. I shook my head, tears streaming freely now. You can't blame yourself, Leo, he added, noticing the guilt on my face. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. I ordered an Uber and sent Nicole a text. Come to Derek's place. It's urgent. I stood and offered Derek my hand. He looked confused but took it. I'm not doing this here. We're going to your place, I said, pulling him out of the closet. He followed quietly. I thanked the kind lady who had once again guarded my luggage, and we made our way outside. Seeing Derek's car in the lot, I groaned and canceled the Uber. Only then did I remember, I had my own car still parked at his place. Can you drive? I asked as he joined me. Yeah, he said softly, already pulling out his keys. We loaded my bags into his car, and I had to bite back fresh tears just watching him help. After everything, the simple act of him carrying my things felt overwhelming. We drove in silence, the weight of the day pressing down on both of us. When he parked, my eyes fell on my own car sitting there too. Wait, you've seen my car here every day? I asked. He glanced at me. How could you forget you had a car? It's how you got here. Things have been busy, I muttered. He raised a brow. Did you also forget I had your keys? I exhaled shakily. I forgot keys existed. For the first time that day, I saw the faintest smile tug at Derek's lips. He dropped his keys twice while unlocking the apartment, his construction carrying far heavier than anyone needed. And yet, despite everything following him up those stairs, I felt a flicker of hope. Leo's point of view. Derek really needed to split his keys onto separate rings. It was too much clutter. His apartment, though, was spotless as always. He didn't own many things, which made cleaning easier. The couch was as comfortable as I remembered, and his gaming setup probably cost more than all of his furniture combined. Be right back, he said, disappearing into his room and closing the door. I hoped he wasn't locking himself in to cry. He didn't need to hide from me. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a water bottle, and settled onto the couch. A moment later, Derek came out wearing his usual all-black outfit, t-shirt and shorts instead of his work uniform. Nicole always teased him for dressing in black, calling him emo, though it wasn't about his looks, just his wardrobe and his moods. Seeing him again after 2 weeks felt surreal. We had been together for so long that even with the distance, it was impossible not to feel the familiarity. But at the same time, sitting here now felt almost like meeting him again for the first time. "Why were you at work today?" I asked, careful not to sound upset that we ran into each other. "I went back early," he said, sitting beside me. "No point in taking too long of a break when I could be making money. If I knew you were trying to avoid me, I would have stayed home." Being this close to him again stirred emotions I'd been holding back. It felt like the past rushing back, reminding me of the years we spent together and the mistakes I made since. I couldn't stop thinking about Nathan, about Donovan, and how wrong it felt to be with anyone else. Not wrong because I'd done something unforgivable, but wrong because Derek had been such a part of me that anything outside of us felt unnatural. The truth was I was still attached to him, and it hurt. "I was with someone else," Derek said suddenly. My heart jumped. Did it sting? Did I deserve it? Probably. "We're single now," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. He kept his gaze on the TV. "I think the only reason I let myself go through with it was because he reminded me of you. I pretended it was fine, like I was in control, but I wasn't. It wasn't revenge. It just wasn't what I thought it would be." "Do you regret it?" I asked. "I regret how I felt about it," he admitted quietly. I swallowed hard. "Can we please not talk about this? You know I would have never betrayed you intentionally. I'm not that kind of person. Yes, I hurt you, but that night was never part of a plan. It was a horrible situation, and I wasn't in my right mind." "Are we going to talk about Nathan?" he asked suddenly. I sighed into my hands. My eyes burned from crying so much, but I forced myself to be honest. "Fine. I'll tell you everything I remember from that night. No holding back. Just let me finish before you interrupt." He nodded, leaning back. "That night we had one of our usual fights, only worse. I was stressed from school, from friends, from everything, and I just wanted to escape. Nathan and I had plans to go out, but everyone else bailed, so it ended up just us. I thought it would be harmless. I wanted to get wasted and forget how upset I was. At the club I drank too much. I cried, I danced, I acted like myself but louder. Nathan and I danced together too. It wasn't unusual, you'd seen us before. But then I met someone named James." "James? This James?" "Stop interrupting." I sighed. "He bought me a drink," I returned the favor. "I told him I had a boyfriend, but I think he slipped something into it. Nathan drank half of it, which is why we were both out of it. And that's when things went downhill." Derek froze. "I didn't realize you were serious about being drugged." I said, my throat tight. "But you'd rather believe I just hated you." "No," Derek said slowly. "I think I met the same James." I blinked. "What?" He explained how he'd met an older guy named James while visiting his sister. He'd gotten drunk, and the man tried to take advantage of him, until someone else intervened. We sat in stunned silence. What were the odds that both of us had crossed paths with the same person, both hurt in different ways? "Do you believe me now?" I asked, giving him a side glance. "Yes," he said through clenched teeth. I grabbed the remote and turned on the TV, letting the sound of SpongeBob fill the silence. "Nathan is in love with me," I blurted suddenly. Derek's head snapped toward me. "Did you know this before or after what happened?" "After." "So he was already in love, and then—" "Yes," I cut in, my voice rising. "But I need you to hear me, Derek. I've never wanted anyone else but you. I've never thought about cheating. I've never loved anyone else. And I never will." He sighed, the tension in his shoulders easing just a little. "I know. I'm sorry." "Leo's point of view. At least you admit it now," I said softly. "I'm going to get help," Derek replied. I sat up straighter, curious and a little anxious. "Go on." "I don't know if you're going to like it," he said carefully, "but I'm checking myself into a hospital tomorrow morning." My eyes widened. Tears slid down his cheeks, and for a moment, I couldn't tell if they were from fear or relief. "It's okay," I whispered, gently resting my hand over his on the couch, an invitation to let him know he wasn't alone. "A lot of people have suggested it before, and I always laughed it off," he said, wiping at his eyes. "But this time I'm serious." Before I could respond, a knock sounded at the door. Derek stood and opened it, only to be nearly knocked over by Nicole, who swept him into a fierce hug, her lipstick smudging his shirt. Derek stood stiffly, but he let her hold him. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice low. "Wow," she muttered, stepping inside without waiting for an answer. Derek shut the door and sat beside me again, clearly uncomfortable. "Why'd you call her?" he asked me. "Because she's the only one I trust," I said simply. Nicole sat with us as I explained everything Derek had admitted. She teared up a few times, while Derek remained quiet but allowed me to share it all. "Do you want me to drive you tomorrow?" Nicole offered. "No," I said. "I'll take him in the morning. I need to be back before school starts." Nicole smiled at me. "I'm proud of you for staying in school. I always knew Derek and I might drop out, but you stuck with it. I'm glad you did." I muttered, "I honestly can't tell when you're being serious." Since I lived too far away, Derek gave Nicole instructions about his apartment, checking on it, making sure nothing happened while he was gone. She promised to help, then eventually left to meet her boyfriend. And then it was just the two of us again. The TV hummed in the background, lights dimmed, silence heavy. We ended up ordering Chinese takeout because neither of us had the energy to cook. By night, exhaustion hung over us like a fog. "You can sleep in my bed," Derek said as I finished the last of the food in the kitchen. "I don't care if we sleep in the same bed," I replied honestly. His bed had always been bigger and more comfortable than mine. I wasn't going to let him sleep on the couch. It didn't need to be awkward. We had slept side by side plenty of times before. I showered while he made a few phone calls, probably to sort out his jobs before his hospital stays. Even though I was glad he finally admitted he needed help, I hated seeing the weight of it all pressing down on him. When I came back, he had already brought my things inside. I changed into a pair of shorts and set out clothes for the next morning. "Can I come in?" Derek asked from the doorway. "Yeah," I said, folding my outfit. "Are you going to sleep?" "Yeah." "Aren't you?" "Yeah." I just finished turning everything off. He pulled off his shirt, left it on the floor, and climbed into his side of the bed. My chest ached at how familiar it felt, but my tears had run dry. I turned off the light and slid into the covers beside him. "Any plans when you get back to the dorms?" he asked quietly. "I'll probably stay with Asha for a while," I admitted. "Avoiding Nathan?" "Derek, we both hurt." And then, in the middle of all of that, Nathan confessed he was in love with me. Why would he do that? Why put that on me? "Maybe he thought you'd feel the same," Derek said gently. "No. He knows I don't. I love him as a best friend, as family, but not like that." "Love makes people do foolish things sometimes," Derek murmured, his voice low. "Well, I don't deserve that kind of pressure," I muttered. "Avoiding him might hurt your friendship more," Derek added. I rolled my eyes in the darkness. "Don't act like you see his point of view. I know you still want to strangle him." "I'm trying to be positive, okay?" he said with a faint laugh. "Positive, huh? Yeah. If we don't want to keep drowning in stress, maybe we have to stop running from problems." "Maybe, but I'm still avoiding him," I sighed, burying my face into my pillow. The room was pitch black, the window covered by a tall tree outside. I wished I could see Derek's face. Then he asked softly, "Do you want to get back together?" Butterflies erupted in my stomach, catching me completely off guard. My throat tightened. For once, I had no words. "Ask me again when you get out," I whispered. My voice sounded sadder than I intended. "Okay," he said simply, turning over. My heart panicked. Without thinking, I reached for him, pulling him back against me. I wrapped my arm around him tightly. "I love you. Don't worry, okay?" I murmured into the darkness. "I love you too," he said quietly. I didn't let go. Not once. That night, I held on to him as if letting go meant losing him all over again. Chapter 16. Derek's point of view. I woke to the sound and smell of sizzling bacon. The space beside me was empty, already growing cold. Nerves immediately washed over me as I remembered what today held, and for a moment I stayed still, staring up at the ceiling. For a few seconds, I almost convinced myself yesterday hadn't happened. But the sound of Leo moving around the kitchen, and the memory of him falling asleep beside me, his arms around me, sent warmth through me. I crept quietly to the doorway and peeked into the living room. Seeing Leo in my home again, after everything, made my heart beat like the first time I'd realized I loved him. I could hardly believe he was here. I was the one who broke us. I was the one who pushed him away. He had been right. I always found ways to put the blame on him. But the truth was simple. I loved him deeply, and I had done so much wrong. That was why I needed help. I couldn't keep living in cycles of mistakes. I took a long, cold shower, letting the water numb me. When I finally joined Leo at the table, I sat with a towel draped over my head like a hood. He had made my favorite breakfast: scrambled eggs, toast, bacon, sausage, and even a can of Pepsi. Simple but perfect. Because he made it, it meant more than anything. "Are you nervous?" Leo asked. "Yeah. Wouldn't you be?" "I packed you some clothes," he said gently. "I read you won't be able to bring much, so I made sure I got things that would work." "You read about it?" I asked, raising a brow. He smiled faintly. "Yeah. Online." "Should I be scared?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "No. You don't need to be scared." I held on to that moment, memorizing his face. I knew soon I wouldn't see him for a while, and I needed that image tucked safely in my mind. "I'm ready," I said after we finished eating. Leo nodded, his own nerves showing. "You should probably wear pajama pants and a plain shirt." We went to my room where he'd packed a backpack for me. It felt strange, like I was a kid being sent off to school, but there was something comforting about it too. I changed into simple clothes while he lingered quietly behind me. Vulnerability had never been easy for me, but now it felt necessary. This needed to be different. I handed Leo my keys, including the car keys he'd pass to Nicole later. We left together, choosing his car over mine. I slid into the passenger seat, pressing my forehead against the window as he started the engine. The silence made my chest tighten, but Leo reached across, placing his hand on my thigh. I laced my fingers with his. His hand was the only warmth I felt. I thought about how I had asked him last night if he wanted to get back together. He hadn't said yes, only told me to ask again when I got out. Yet here we were, holding hands. I didn't know what it meant, but maybe there was still hope. I glanced at him, focused on the road, and my chest ached. Even after all this time, looking at him made me fall in love all over again. How could anyone be so steady, so good, so beautiful? Leo had always been my safe place. And even though I was afraid of what was ahead, I knew I had to do this. Not to give up, but to finally find peace. The hospital wasn't far. By the time we arrived, the sun was only beginning to rise. The world was still quiet, and it felt oddly calm. "This is it," Leo said, shutting off the engine. He leaned forward, resting his forehead on the steering wheel with a heavy sigh. "We'll have time to talk after I'm out," I told him, placing a hand on his knee. "And I think therapy will help me finally open up the way I should have before." "Yeah," he said softly. I nodded, gripping my backpack straps. "I guess this is it." "I'll walk in with you until they take you," Leo promised, opening his door. Together, we crossed the empty lot. The hospital doors slid open with a cold rush of air, and I shivered, not just from the chill, but from the weight of the step I was about to take. Derek's point of view. Now that I was here, I wasn't sure what to say. The waiting room was empty, every chair open. It was a relief, really. A television on the wall played the news softly, and a woman sat behind the reception desk, smiling politely. I cleared my throat as I approached. "Good morning, how may I help you?" she asked warmly. I glanced at Leo, my mind going blank. "He's voluntarily checking himself in," Leo explained for me. "Can I have your ID?" she asked. I pulled out my wallet from the pocket of my pajama pants that made me feel like I was checking into a sleepover rather than a hospital. Handing her my identification, I waited as she disappeared, then returned with a stack of paperwork. We took seats, and I began filling it out. Leo's restless foot tapping distracted me until I nudged him with my pen. "You're not the one going in," I muttered. "So? I have my own issues," he said, flicking invisible hair over his shoulder like he was in a play. I gave him a blank stare and went back to the forms. When I finished, I turned everything in. Pride flickered in me for not needing help with the questions. 20 minutes later, my name was called. By then, a few other seats had filled. Leo and I followed the doctor into a private office. He glanced at the clipboard through his rectangular glasses. Derek Joseph Morrigan? Yes, that's me, I said, sliding forward in my chair. And are you family? The doctor asked Leo. I'm his boyfriend, Leo answered without hesitation. You won't be able to go back with him, but you may stay here in the waiting area, the doctor said before turning back to me. He asked me personal questions about my thoughts, my history, my struggles. Answering with Leo sitting right there made me squirm. My skin prickled with every word, and I wanted to shrink into myself. Hearing Leo call himself my boyfriend only added to the storm inside me. Was it true, or just something he said so they wouldn't turn him away? Finally, the doctor stood. Follow me. Before I could, Leo wrapped me in a hug. It wasn't long, but it felt like the strongest hug I'd had in years. When he pulled back, his brown eyes were glossy. Call me as much as you can, he whispered. Okay. You'll be all right. For a second, I wondered if we were supposed to kiss. We weren't officially back together, and the doctor was standing right there. So instead, I leaned forward and kissed Leo's cheek. Go before I drag you in with me, I joked lightly. He chuckled, walking backward toward the door. Before he left, he blew me a kiss and waved. The nurse guided me to a wheelchair. I sat down, and she pushed me toward an elevator. We went up 2 floors, where the hallways were busier with nurses and doctors. I was taken to a private room, handed a gown, and told to change. The nurse returned after a while to check my blood pressure, take blood samples, and ask questions. You admitted yourself? She asked, clipboard in hand. Yes. What made you come in? I knew I'd never get help unless something serious pushed me to. Yesterday, something happened that made me realize I couldn't keep going this way. Does it have to do with your relationship? She asked carefully. I nodded. Partly, but mostly, it's because I know I need help. I don't want to keep hurting myself or the people I love. I just want to get better. She smiled softly. That's good. That's very good. She explained that I would meet with a doctor later, that my stay might last a week or longer depending on progress, and that medications would only be considered after further evaluation. By the time I was wheeled back toward another elevator, nearly 3 hours had passed. Anxiety churned in my chest, but I reminded myself why I was here. When the elevator opened again, I knew there was no turning back. My hands shook so much that I crossed my arms to steady them. We approached a heavy door, guarded and secured with a swipe card. Inside, the hall split off into different rooms. The nurse led me to one. You can walk from here, she said. I stood, turned the knob, and stepped inside. The room looked like something out of a movie, warm tones of wood, shelves of books, sunlight streaming through one wall of glass. Behind a desk sat a woman with her back to me. This was it. My new beginning. Derek's point of view. Hello, I said. She turned, black hair sweeping over her shoulder, and flashed a bright, reassuring smile as she stepped down from her desk. Derek Morrigan? She asked. That's me. Hi, I'm Dr. Naomi Vestine. I'll be your doctor while you're here. She moved behind her desk and gestured to the chair across from her. Would you like some water before we start? I'm good, thanks, I said, settling into the comfortable seat. How are you feeling today? She asked, studying my face with calm attention. Okay. Do you usually feel okay? I hesitated. Not really. Can you tell me what brought you here? Here we go. I've been in a dark place for a long time. It got so bad that I tried to end my life. I survived because friends showed up at the right moment. If they hadn't, I wouldn't be here. She nodded, listening. Any substances not listed on your forms? No. Can you tell me what happened that day? It was one of the worst days. I bought more to use that night. Everything felt heavier than usual, like it might be my last. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to keep living the way I was. I was overwhelmed and tired of trying to handle it all. What stresses you most? My life in general. I dropped out of college because I felt like I couldn't keep up. I didn't feel smart enough, and I couldn't afford rent with the jobs I had. So I left school, worked 2 jobs, and still felt like I was slipping. What about family? My mom died when I was young. My dad and I don't talk. He doesn't really support me. Financially or otherwise? Both. When I was younger, he married someone who had a son my age. He lived in Italy at first, but they wanted him to move in so we'd be a family. When he came, we fell in love. I swallowed hard. When our parents found out, it changed everything. My dad tried, but he couldn't accept it. It caused arguments and distance, and eventually broke their marriage. Maybe we were young, but I can't regret it. I spent years with someone I still believe is my soulmate. Are you still together? It's complicated. How so? I broke up with him a few weeks ago. She frowned, flipping through papers. It says your boyfriend was with you. I explained, our breakup, the mistakes, being drugged, the fallout. She wrote steadily, page after page, like my life needed more paper than her clipboard could hold. At last, she set the pen down. I'll let you settle into your room. Tomorrow morning, during check-in, we'll talk about medication options. We both stood. Saying everything out loud didn't magically fix me. Dr. Vestine was kind and attentive, but talking has never been easy for me. Still, I knew this mattered. Maybe it wouldn't erase the pain, but it could keep me from hiding. I'll speak with you again soon, she said gently. Outside her office, a nurse handed me a brown paper bag. Follow me, please. We walked a long hallway lined with closed doors until we reached the last one. He opened it and motioned me inside. This will be your room. The shower is there. He pointed to the open bathroom area. Curtains for the stall, 2 beds in the room, 1 already used. There's a kit with a toothbrush, toothpaste, and shampoo. If you need more blankets or socks, just ask. I set the bag on the neatly made bed, the one that had to be mine, and glanced at the small barred window. Can I change out of this gown? I asked. He chuckled. Just leave it outside when you're done. I'll be at the front desk. When the door closed, I exhaled and sat. The mattress crinkled loudly. The thin blankets did little against the chill. I rifled through the bag, pulled out my clothes, and tugged the gown over my head. The door opened. I yelped, balling the gown against my chest. A guy with tan skin, blonde hair, and striking green eyes stood in the doorway, immediately averting his gaze. Sorry, didn't mean to barge in. I'm Sasha, your roommate. Hi, I managed, grabbing my pants and shirt. Mind giving me a second? Already looking at the floor, he said, tone dry but not unkind. I dressed quickly, then relaxed a breath. I'm Derek. I know, he said with a small grin, stepping into the hall. Come on, I'll give you the tour. I followed. He pointed out the cafeteria, open at set times, and the nurse's station behind glass. A large board listed names and days. Those are points, Sasha explained. You earn them by doing the basics, making your bed, helping out, participating, eating meals. You can trade them for small things, like a soda or choosing the TV channel. A nurse shot him a look. Sasha. Right, he said, tapping his forehead. Just the basics. We crossed into a big common room with couches, games, a pool table, and beanbags. Sasha dropped into a neon green one and waved me down beside him. His hands fidgeted, but his voice stayed light. By the way, he whispered, even though no one was close enough to hear, I stashed a bag of Cheetos under your mattress. I blinked, then laughed despite myself. For the first time that day, the room felt a little less cold. Chapter 17. Leo's point of view. The drive back to my dorms took longer than I hoped. I stopped at a small motel to rest for a few hours before heading out again. Truthfully, even before all this, I never loved the long drive to see Derek. I had done it more often than he ever came down to visit me. But his situation was different. He was always working, even on weekends when I stayed with him. At the motel, a kind Korean guy at the front desk gave me my keys. I hurried to my room, eager to disappear into the shadows before my nerves and my thoughts got the best of me. Before I collapsed onto the bed, I sat on its edge, staring at the neon motel sign glowing through the blinds. The colored light painted across my face, making me feel like I was stuck in some indie film. My mind drifted where it always did, back to Derek. What was I supposed to do now? Neither of us could have predicted all that had happened, especially so quickly. 2 weeks ago, we were supposed to be on the road trip that would change everything, something healing, something new. I had so many plans for us, so many things I wanted to share with him. I tried to believe everything happened for a reason, but that faith was hard to hold when it came with so much pain. Derek didn't deserve what he had gone through. He wasn't a bad person. He was one of the most caring people I'd ever met. He just struggled to show it sometimes. I tossed and turned, barely managing an hour of sleep. My thoughts wouldn't quiet. What if I answered his question wrong? What if saying yes too soon pulled us back into the same cycle of pain? I wanted Derek to get better first. I wanted him healthy before I thought about us. Because without his well-being, there couldn't be a relationship at all. He knew I loved him. He knew I supported him. That reassurance had to be enough for now. Yes, he broke up with me, and yes, it hurt. But I saw the regret in his eyes. Deep down, I believed the breakup wasn't real. It was a mask he had to wear. A necessary step. Now that Derek had finally accepted his struggles and chosen to seek help, I needed to turn to the other storm waiting for me, Nathan. It was all too much. I wasn't giving up on Derek, but my life felt like it was piling high with stress. Classes were starting soon, and my focus was slipping. Maybe Derek was right about not ignoring Nathan. But was I ready to listen? Probably not. Nathan had let me down when I needed him most. Still, I wasn't heartless. I knew I'd have to face him eventually, to hear his side. But it hurt knowing our friendship had changed forever. He was in love with me. I wasn't in love with him. And nothing between us would ever be the same. Memories of us flooded my mind, like the first night we met at that LGBT party where everyone wore labels describing their identities. Nathan's label read, cisgender heterosexual, and people gave him looks all night. I had laughed. I never once imagined he might someday have feelings for me. Did he figure out he was bisexual because of me? Had he carried these feelings for years? How could I have missed it? He was always like a brother to me, my closest friend. That was why it hurts so much now, because that bond had shifted into something I wasn't ready for. By the time I reached campus, dawn had just begun to rise. The building stood calm and quiet while my thoughts screamed in chaos. I dragged my suitcases up the path, tired and unsteady. My room was on the 3rd floor, and though I usually took the stairs for the exercise, today I was too exhausted. I paused at my door, keys dangling between my fingers. I knew Nathan was inside. I didn't want to face him, but I had things in the room I needed. Taking a deep breath, I slipped into stealth mode. I slid the key in, turned the knob, and eased the door open. The room was familiar. Closets on the right, the bathroom door on the left, then the larger space with our desks and twin beds. Nathan's bed was occupied, his body still and quiet, turned away from me. My luggage waited outside the door, since I wasn't staying. I prayed no one touched it, especially not my laptop. I tiptoed to my desk, gathering notebooks, journals, and anything I thought I'd need. A pen slipped from my hand and hit the floor. I froze, waiting for Nathan to stir. When he didn't, I quickly collected the rest and made for the door. At the last second, I darted back, grabbed my pillow, and carried it between my teeth like some ridiculous escape artist. I slipped out of the room, nearly tripping over my suitcases, and clumsily hauled everything down the hall. Books, notebooks, a small box, a pillow, and 2 overstuffed suitcases dragged along by whatever limbs I could spare. I must have looked like a disaster. In the elevator, everything spilled to the floor just as I sneezed. I laughed through the tears in my eyes as I picked it all back up. I was overwhelmed, tired, and still haunted by everything Derek and Nathan had brought into my world. Classes were starting soon, and I hadn't even unboxed my laptop. It was going to be a long day. Leo's point of view. I headed across the building and took the elevator up to the 4th floor. With my hands full, I knocked on Asha's door using my knee until it started to hurt. Finally, she opened the door, eyes half shut, voice hoarse. "Leonardo, I swear, I'm going to punch you," she groaned. "Oh, your locks are blue now," I exclaimed, brushing past her. "When you said you were coming, I didn't think you meant this early. I didn't ask to be born this way either, but here I am," I teased, flashing a smile. "That was very on brand for you. I'm going back to sleep." She closed the door and shuffled back toward her bed like a zombie. Her roommate, Tanika, gave me a squinty glare. "Go back to bed, Tanika," I said. She rolled her eyes, pulled her blanket over her head, and went back to sleep. Asha's desk was always more organized than mine, so I sat up there, pulled out my laptop, and got to work. Sure enough, when I checked my emails, classes were starting. Why would I think otherwise? Soon my internship would start too. Was I even going to have time to breathe, let alone think? I answered a few emails and tried to focus, but my eyes stung with tears. Tanika chuckled quietly from her bed. "Kim Kardashian vibes," she muttered before rolling back over. Crying wasn't unusual in dorm life. If you weren't crying every other day, people started to wonder about you. Still, I tried to push through and keep working. After a while, exhaustion caught me. I fell asleep at the desk with my laptop still running, only to be woken up a couple of hours later by Tanika, who set down a plate of food for me: scrambled eggs, bacon, a slice of bread, and cold water. "I'm heading out. Lock the door when you leave," she said. "Thanks," I replied, touched. I ate quickly, then went back to working. I was behind, but not so badly that I couldn't catch up before the due date. Unless something else tragic distracted me, which, knowing my life, wasn't impossible. While working, I thought about a meal I'd shared not long ago, and on impulse, I decided to text Cash. I'd ignored everyone's messages lately, including his, and guilt tugged at me. Plus, I needed to keep my phone close in case Derek called. So, I sent a quick, "Hey," then returned to my assignments. Hours dragged on. Psychology fascinated me, but sometimes it felt like too much. Every year I questioned whether I should stick with it, every year I dreamed of something new. In that way, I was like Derek, restless, searching. Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing, but right now, adult life felt heavier than ever. Later that day, during one of my classes, my phone rang. My ringtone blared embarrassingly loud, and I had to rush into the hall as people stared. But when I saw the name on the screen, I didn't care. "Derek, thanks for calling our top-secret hotline," I joked, answering. Derek chuckled. "If you embarrass me on this call, I'll make sure you never dance in public again." "Relax, I'm kidding. How's everything? Tell me everything." He sighed. "Definitely anxious. Talked to the doctor. Told her everything. 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 Including how much you drive me crazy," he said dryly. I smiled, even as my chest tightened. "She probably thinks you're obsessed with me." "Maybe she does," he said softly. The thought lingered with me. Nervousness and tenderness mixed inside me. Then he added, "Also, I have a roommate. He's hard to describe." "Ooh, is he cute?" I teased. "He looks like a model, Leo." "Of course he does," I muttered. "He's Russian, obsessed with Cheetos, and apparently thinks I have a nice smile." "Hey, Derek, you might as well just call me plain and be done with it," I teased again, though part of me bristled. "Leo, you know how I feel about you," he said, his voice steady. I went quiet, then whispered, "A reminder would be nice." "You're the most attractive person I've ever met," he said finally. "And you only make my life harder by being that way." Butterflies swarmed my stomach, even though I tried to laugh it off. We talked for hours, until finally Derek asked the question I'd been dreading. "Did you talk to Nathan?" I groaned dramatically. Wow, has it really been 4 hours? Time flies, gotta go. "Leo, chill. Did you just dude me?" he asked, half teasing, half serious. I sighed. "All I'm saying is, I'm not ready. Not yet." He hesitated. Then, gently, "If you don't talk to him, I will. I'll do it for you if I have to. But I think you should." I made a face, even though he couldn't see it. "Are you seriously teaming up with Nathan now?" "No," he said softly. But I get it. We both care about you. We both love you. Just in different ways. His words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. So, I did the only thing I knew how. I covered it with humor. Fine. Here's your compliment. Derek, you're the most incredible man I've ever known. Even if you broke my heart once, I still love you. Always. There was a pause, then he laughed, his voice cracking in a way that made me laugh too. Maybe we were both broken. But in that moment, talking to him like this, I believed we could heal, together. Leo's point of view. You're going to have to give me another compliment for that, Derek teased. Oh, come on. I'm waiting. I rolled my eyes. Don't roll your eyes at me. You think I don't know you? I rubbed my temples. Derek Joseph Morgan. You are loyal, you are caring, you are wonderful at everything you do, and your struggles don't define you. What defines you is the fact that you've been the person I've loved since the very beginning, and no matter how much we grow, you're still my Derek. His only reply was a groan, though I could hear the small smile in his voice when he added, "Okay, thank you." I knew he wasn't saying it directly to me, but I let it slide. Do you have to go soon? I asked, my voice quieter. They said I've got another 10 minutes. What do you want to spend them on? Let's talk about anything other than my situation. How was your day? I sighed. Well, I'm in my last class and I missed lunch, so my stomach is protesting. Oh, right. I forgot you were still in school. I'm sorry. It's okay, Derek. And thank you for what you said earlier. I wasn't expecting that turn. Leo? Serious? Must be a dream, I said, forcing a grin into my words. He chuckled. All right, dream boy. Since we're being honest, do you ever have secret thoughts you've never told me? Secret thoughts? I tilted my head. Like what? Little things. Feelings or thoughts you might be embarrassed to say out loud. I thought for a moment, then smirked. Maybe I've kept some, but nothing I wouldn't eventually tell you. Then tell me one. I pretended to hesitate. Fine. Sometimes I feel like you don't realize how much you mean to me. And that terrifies me, because you've always been my safe place. The line went quiet for a second. Leo, that's not embarrassing. That's beautiful. Yeah, well, I muttered. Your turn. What's your secret? He chuckled softly. That I used to imagine what it might be like if life had gone differently. If I hadn't made mistakes. If we hadn't broken up. And in every version of that thought, you and I were still together. My heart clenched. Derek. I know. Sounds cheesy. It's not cheesy. It's honest, I whispered. There was a pause, and then his tone shifted. Leo, when I told you about, well, the other guy, it was different, but it didn't mean more. Nothing compares to us. You need to know that. I leaned my head against the wall, closing my eyes. I'm not comparing myself to anyone. Nobody knows you the way I do. And nobody ever will. He laughed lightly. I can hear the confidence in your voice. Good, I said, smirking. Silence stretched between us for a moment, soft and comfortable. Then Derek's voice came quieter, almost shy. So, are you taking me back? I nearly rolled my eyes again but stopped myself. Instead, I said softly, I'm not answering that until you're out. But just so you know, you're still mine. I could hear his smile through the phone. All right. How many minutes left? About 5. Then we'll talk faster, I said. Did you regret it? He hesitated. No. It was different. But nothing compared to you. Not even close. I breathed out slowly, my chest warm. But because I wasn't going to let you forget that anyway. We laughed together, the kind of laugh that untangled knots inside me. As the call stretched to its end, Derek said, Leo, are you going to talk to Nathan? I groaned. We've been talking this whole time and you had to ruin it with that? Leo. I bit my lip. Not yet. Well, think about it. The silence lingered, and I panicked at the thought of the line ending. Derek, I love you. I love you too. Warmth spread through my chest. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Frictious, but hopeful. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.